Hello, you're listening to the Eric McKenna Project.
So welcome back, my friend.
Thanks for having me back. Truly appreciate it.
I was looking forward to this one. So,
awesome.
Full disclosure, when Rocco was on last time, I had not gotten a copy of his book, and I told him, I said I was going to get the book and I was going to read it, and I was going to be critical. And I wanted to be critical because I have read so many self-motivation, self-development books from all these masters. And I have to tell you, when I was completed, I read it through twice, and I think I reached out to you and said, look, I am so impressed with this book, the frankness of it. I said, we need to have a show, because we were scheduled to do this a little later. Yeah. I said, you need to come on now and talk about the book, because I know you're pretty humble, and I don't know, we didn't go into the book in detail last time, but it's time to do that.
Awesome, man. I'm looking forward to it. I appreciate the compliments.
So first off, the book, friends, it's the Alpha Way. Okay, it's the Alpha Way. 5 keys to unlocking your greatness and living your best life. And your best life, or living my best life, is a phrase that's thrown around a lot now. And unfortunately, it doesn't hold probably the same meaning that the essence of this book is, because you're really talking about pathways to live your best life.
Yeah, right, exactly. That's exactly right. It's people look at, like you said, in pop culture, the best life, there's really no definition to it. It's really, you got to uncover what is your best life. Your best life and my best life are going to be completely different, right? When I talk about it, it's just maximizing everything in your life. So in the book, I give these principles, right, to follow, to help you find your passion, to do the things you want to do, and live that life. When you wake up every day, you actually enjoy what you're doing and living that life you really want to live. We all have the same opportunity to do that. It just takes certain things that most people go through life not understanding. Okay. And that's really why I wrote the book.
Well, the book, the positives to the book for me is that it's extremely easy to understand. It's very, it's not simple, but it's very concise and straight to the point.
Sure.
And we were talking off camera. I said, so how many hours did it take you to parse all that down? Because every sentence in there, as you could tell, has been well thought out.
Thank you.
And that's what I look for when I read, because I think there's a lot of motivational stuff in the industry.
Oh, yeah.
That's a lot of fluff and regurgitation. And just things that have been done over and over again. Because we talked last time, and the concept is, there's nothing original in the concept.
No, not at all.
It's more about the philosophy and how it's put together.
Yeah, I mean, I think in the reason why I wrote the book, so I may have talked about this last time, but I always say, I'm the same as you. Like, I read a ton of books from all these motivational gurus, and a lot of the stuff is the same. But I always say they're writing from the top of the mountain. They're saying, I used to, live in my sister's basement. Now I'm making $20 million a year. Here's what I did to get there. It's like, cool, but that's not relatable to the guy that's making 50 grand a year that wants to make 100 grand a year. How do you go from 50 to 100? So I looked at it and said, okay, in my life, I'm climbing the mountain. I'm not at the top, nowhere near where I want to be. I'm halfway up. I can help those people that are coming up behind me get to where I am. And that's really the perspective I wrote the book from, if that makes any sense.
Absolutely, because it does not come across as a heavy-handed life manual.
No, not at all.
Which they are out there. Right. And I have ingested quite a few of those over the years.
Absolutely.
One of the styles in the way you write the book too, it's very reminiscent of Jim Rohn. It's coming across now. Rohn had that old grandfather talk mentality, but that was more audible than I think than his written word. His written word was very much from an encouraging standpoint.
Yeah,
and being very frank.
Yeah,
which you are. And I think that resonates. I think that has a chance to resonate with more people than things that are heavy-handed. And there's some very successful motivational people out there, would you not agree?
Absolutely.
But that are still coming across heavy-handed.
Yeah.
And their following tends to be people that are looking for a quick answer, or this is going to solve all my problems.
Right.
They're not willing to do the work.
Right.
And that's what. And I've always been able to well, this guy's inspiring. This guy's just dictatorial.
Yeah, exactly.
But you seem to really you want the reader, correct me if I'm wrong, to be inspired.
Yeah, I want the reader. I look at it as I want the reader to be inspired and understand that. And I think I say it in the book that it's what I talk about isn't difficult, but it's hard. There's a big difference. Like difficult is complex, right? It's trying to figure out all the shit I have to do to get where I want to go. I give it to you. I really truly believe that if you follow these 5 principles, you can be successful. The problem is it's not easy to do. It's hard. It takes work. It takes determination. It takes grit, persistence, all these different things. That's exactly right. And I talk about, the difference between time management and energy management. And there's a big distinction there, but I wanted this to be, I want to say maybe a guidebook that, like, here, if you pick this up, you read it, understand it, and start applying these principles, I can guarantee your life will start improving for the better. I mean, it's really that simple. Now, will this get you to the top of the mountain? Maybe, maybe not. It'll get you started. I can tell you that.
Right, because everyone's mountain and circumstances are unique.
Absolutely.
And the goals are unique.
Exactly. Absolutely.
Well, let's start at the beginning. It's a logical thing to do. The Alpha Way, a life worth living. Just that statement, a life worth living. My friend, I will tell you, it resonates with me because when I dove into self-development, I wasn't valuing my life. And the time that was just flying by. A life worth living. And it sounds contrite, but it's not, is it? No, it's we have to appreciate where we are to get to where we want to go. And I think this is the thing people miss. That's why I started the book with talking about gratitude, right? Because absolutely.
And that took a while for me to understand in life. To my mid-30s, really when I figured it out. And it's, if you want more in life, right? If I want to be more successful, build my business even bigger, or make a bigger impact in the world, I have to appreciate the impact I've already made, where my business already is. Because if you can't stop and appreciate where you currently are, you're never going to be happy. You're never going to be happy because you're always looking for the next thing. Now, I'm future focused, right? I'm always striving. I never rest. I'm always going to the next thing, but I've learned to appreciate where I am and understand those things and be grateful for the opportunities I've been given, the people I've met, my family, my friends, my wife, my kids. I truly appreciate everything I have in my life, but I know I want so much more.
And in the time that grateful, one of the really good statements that I think that came in one of the paragraphs in that first segment of the book was, we spend too much time worrying about what others think.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Simple, but what a powerful statement.
Well, it's the truth. And when I reflected on my life, I spent my 20s doing that. And I think as men, especially, we tend to do that a lot more so in our younger years. When I was in my 20s, I was in law school, 24, I had my son, unexpectedly. I was constantly worried about what other people thought of me. Was I successful in their eyes? Was I a good dad in their eyes? And I wasn't thinking about it from my own perspective. And I think when you start shifting that perspective to not worry about what other people think and live the way you want to live, that's when everything changes. But it's human nature, I believe, to really let the opinions of others impact us. That takes work to shift. But once you shift it, that's literally, you will feel an enormous change in your life. And probably in today's society, with social media being what it is, it's even harder to make that change, probably, because we're so centric. We're so aware, or at least we think we are, of what others think about us. I think a lot of us go around life worrying so much about what other people are thinking about us, and they're really not thinking about us at all. Well, that's exactly right. What you just said is exactly right. We're that vain to believe that we're the center of the universe. That's so true. I can't remember who told me that, but one of the first times I went out and spoke, I can't remember who I was talking to. They said, if you're nervous, don't worry about it, because 95% of that audience is worrying about what they're going to have for dinner, what they have to do when they leave. No one's really listening. And that made it very simple for me. I'm like, oh, great. I don't need to worry about this anymore. But yeah, you're absolutely right. And also in that first, you talked a lot about focus, to try to align your focus. And one of the things I got from was change focus,
become grateful, combine those two, and then everything can change for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, focus is the hardest thing, I think, right? I mean,
There's been multitudes of books just on how to do that.
Right. We have, and there's so many distractions in life. And going to what you said about social media, people, and I work with other entrepreneurs, right? So a lot of these entrepreneurs will come up with ideas, and then they'll go on social media and they'll get a new idea because they see the next thing, or they chase that next rabbit. And so, you're constant, and I've been guilty of that myself, getting involved in a bunch of different businesses at the same time when I had no idea what I was doing in any of them. I was chasing different rabbits. But once you kind of start honing your focus and saying, what do I really want to do in life? What's the main focus? And adding that gratitude to that process, to understanding your life and where you are and where you want to go, that's really when you can change anything you want.
No question.
Absolutely.
No question. And would you not agree, too, that it's a process? You're not going to wake up one day and have an epiphany.
Yeah.
That, I totally understand my life now. It's an evolution, right?
Well, I always say, as people, right, we're an onion. We're constantly peeling back layers of ourselves. So I'm 40, how am I on it? 42. I'm a lot
easy over there.
Well, I'm a lot different than I was at 35.
Oh, sure.
I'll be a lot different 3 years from now because I'm constantly peeling back layers of myself, my life, to discover more about me. And what I want. And maybe the things I wanted 5 years ago are not the same things I want today. In the past 2 years, when I left corporate America, my life has changed completely. And I went into this year, 2019, my first real full year practicing law by myself full time, with one expectation, which I've blown out of the water. No idea how that was going to happen, but it came down to my focus. I finally had that focus on really what I wanted to do. And I just started peeling back the layers of the other shit in my life to getting down to that core focus. And that's when I started to really see this rapid change and rapid advancement in my professional career.
Absolutely.
And it's an amazing thing, but it takes time. You're not going to wake up one day and be like, oh, I got it all figured out. I still don't have it figured out.
And I think we touched on that last time we were here, and we both agreed. I remember that is what if there was a center of disingenuous behavior in a lot of motivational books, it makes the reader believe, even sometimes the hype of the book before they open the cover, that they're going to figure it all out and get meaning in their life and know what their purpose is on page 1. Right?
No,
am I right?
No, you're exactly right. And that's the problem, because like you said, it's a journey, it's a process, it's peeling back the layers, and life is evolution. You're going to constantly change. And I always believe, and I again say this in the book, you're either growing or you're dying. We don't stay the same as an individual. We're either doing things to improve ourselves and our lives through personal growth, personal development, or if we're not, we're slowly dying, because the speed of technology, the speed of information development these days is tremendous. It's far more rapid than it's ever been. So if we're not doing things to keep up with that, we're just slowly dying. And those books, people come away and think, well, my life isn't changed. This is bullshit, or this doesn't work. But it does. The principles that are the basis of those books.
It's not a magic button.
No, it's not. It's work. Like, that's what I always tell people. It's, I have friends that bust my balls about, just my life. You get to do what you want. You built it. I said, yeah. You forget about the days where I'm working 18 hours in an office by myself, staring at a wall, writing blog posts, or doing the shit that no one wants to do. You got to be willing to do the work to live the life you want, but everybody just wants to get the end result without engaging in the process.
Well, I think what I hear you saying is that has to do with the passion. Why you do those things you have a passion for. We're going to talk about that a little further in the book. Before we, because don't get me a little confused. Let's stay on course here.
Absolutely.
My mind tends to go everywhere. But I want to move right into attitude, because I like the fact that the attitude. I've read some, and I've experienced some training, some self-development training, that attitude is not at the forefront. It tends to be addressed later, which doesn't make any sense to me.
Right, yeah.
You have to address that first, right?
It's the most important thing.
Yeah.
It's the one thing you can control.
And you quoted Churchill, which I think is a great quote. It says, Churchill, attitude is a little thing that makes a big difference.
Yeah.
It's so true.
It makes all the difference. Because when you think about it, it's the one thing in life, right? The one thing that you can wake up every day and you have complete control over. Because you decide If I wake up tomorrow, I decide if I want to be happy or not. If I want to be pissed off or stressed or joyful or complacent or melancholy, whatever I want to be, it's my choice.
Sure.
I can let other things impact that, but I'm the one that makes the ultimate choice.
You also linked gratitude with attitude.
Yeah, absolutely. Because think about it. The more grateful it's hard to be pissed off when you're grateful. Like, that's why every day in my morning routine, I start off with writing down 3 things I'm grateful for. Because if I start my day looking at my life and saying, I'm grateful for these things, it's very hard to have a negative attitude from that. When you tell your brain and you tell yourself that I'm actually thankful for these things in my life, how do you switch to negative from that? I mean, you can. You're going to have a bad day. Like, I'm not perfect. I get pissed off and stressed out and shit happens. But when you have that, that perspective of gratitude, that's just setting yourself up for success because it keeps you in that positive state of mind.
We almost owe that to ourselves. And believe me, I fail on it constantly. But we can almost owe it to ourselves to kind of set our state when we get out of bed.
That's exactly right. Yep.
And we're doing ourselves a disservice by not doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's such a simple thing that we have complete control over, but most people just get out of bed and rush. They rush into the day.
Guilty.
Right. Well, I mean, and I've done that too. And that's why when I talk about the morning routine in the book, like, that's so important to me, because that's that hour and a half I give myself every morning to set that state.
Amen.
And that's how I come out and I'm productive and I'm focused. That's it.
Talk a little bit about perspective, because you mentioned in chapter 2 that we are responsible for understanding what perspective is and making sure that we're not making sure that we make perspective work for us.
Well, right. So when you think about perspective, right? And I in the book I kind of give those 2 scenarios about the person getting out of bed. Right. And for those who haven't read the book, I talk about a person getting up out of bed and in the same exact facts. They step on a toy, they go downstairs and there's no coffee, but each person had a different perspective. One person looked at it from a positive perspective, saying, oh, when they stepped on the toy, when they got out of bed, they remember playing with their daughter the night before.
Right.
And that brought joy to them. The fact that there wasn't coffee, they're like, I get to go to Starbucks and buy my favorite drink. The other person got up and got irritated because they stepped on a toy, got pissed off, because that's all about perspective. And when you understand that we get to choose the perspective, we get to choose the reaction to an event, that's how you can control your happiness and your attitude in life. And it's so many people miss that. We become our reactions become these circumstances of facts instead of being something we control. And once you shift that and start controlling your reactions, then you can build the life you want very simply, because it's all about your own perspective.
One of the greatest statements I ever heard about that was Jim Rohn. He said that because when I decided to replace anger with fascination, and people would laugh when he would say, the audience would just start roaring. He says, you can laugh. He says, and it took me a while to figure it out.
Yeah.
But once I did that, he goes, case in point, I'm going to leave this arena tonight after speaking to you wonderful people. Yeah. I'm going to get in the car. Hopefully I'm not driving. And he would say, I'm going to go to the airport. And more than likely on Route 71, I'm going to encounter some traffic. And I'm probably going to have to rush to my plane. Now, while I'm sitting there in traffic, do I become agitated? Or does that traffic make me fascinated?
But again, that's perspective, right? I mean, that's a prime example of it.
It is. And he was joking, but he wasn't joking.
No, but that is the essence of perspective. That's exactly. And Simon Sinek gives another example when he talks about speaking, or when he talks about athletes being, questioned when they I can't remember the speech he gave, but he was talking about how you always see these reporters ask athletes, well, were you nervous when they're like, no, I was excited. He's like, it's the same physiological feeling, nervousness and excitement. It's just they've trained their brain to see it differently.
Right.
That's the perspective. And I remember hearing that, and I've used that when I go out and speak, because I get nervous, right? Mm-hmm. I just tell myself I'm not nervous. I'm excited to share my message, and by shifting that little perspective, mm-hmm. really changes the way my output is. I mean, it's amazing how big of an impact your perspective has on your life in general.
One of the biggest negativity, or one of the biggest negative terms in this society, which is called failure. Right. Would you not agree? We're hit with that term all the time.
Right.
Sometimes it's disguised as the word lose.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's described as a lot of quote unquote negative terms. Mm-hmm. But failure is a learning opportunity.
Absolutely.
And when you say that, just generally people kind of dismiss that, but you dismiss it at your own peril, because we're going to be hit with failure all the time.
Yes.
But it's how you ingest that.
Absolutely.
Wouldn't you agree? I mean,
100%.
You talk multiple times in the book about how you're not losing.
Yeah.
You're learning.
That's exactly it.
You have to buy into that.
100%, because I think there's a motivational quote that says you either win or you learn.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
And I believe that the only true failure in life is when you quit, when you give up, when you stop doing something. That's failure in my mind. The other things that happen are just wrong ways of doing something, errors, mistakes, and learning opportunities.
Okay.
And you have to engage in that. Like I wouldn't be the lawyer I am today if I didn't make the mistakes I've made in my life, mm-hmm. if I didn't learn from the things I did wrong. But too many people fear that. So they never, if you're not afraid of that failure or making those mistakes, then you tend to get outside the bounds a little bit. You're willing to take those bigger risks, and that's how you live that bigger life. Mm-hmm. But when people fear failure and they have that negative connotation, they live inside this box. Mm-hmm. They like the box. It's comfortable and it's safe and it's warm, but it's boring as hell. And then they look back 20 years from now and say, what did I do? Yeah, it's great. I had a safe life, but there wasn't anything exciting. The people that live those exciting, passionate, purposeful lives are the ones that understand failure or making mistakes is part of the process, mm-hmm. and they're willing to do that. So that box just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and so does their life. And that's how you live that best life. You got to be okay with that.
I think, and this is going to deviate just a little bit. We'll come back around again, but you touched on something about willing to take that chance.
Yeah.
When you go back to perception, would you not agree that social media is, I'm going to pick on Instagram for a second, because that seems to be a quick photographic expression for people.
Yep.
I think a lot of our society, and I'm going to select maybe the 28, 29 and younger, are so entrenched in there. They're not viewing reality, and when their life does not equal or has an opportunity to be what their favorite celebrities are showing out there, they view that as either a failure, which is ridiculous,
right?
Okay,
mm-hmm.
or there's depression comes from that. Yeah. They're not viewing that one medium is giving them a perspective or carving their own perspective.
Yeah,
that is not reality.
No, and what people seem to miss is that most of those influencers, they're showing their highlight reel, mm-hmm. right? They're not showing the shit that actually happens. Because when you think about it, and that's why I try to be open and transparent on social media. Like, I talk about the good and the bad. I show my crazy kids on there. I show that my life is the farthest thing from perfect. It's insane most days, mm-hmm. but I want to be transparent, because I want people to know that, you can get to where you want to go, but it's not this everything is rosy and and champagne and private jets. It's hard, and in life, the beauty of life sometimes is the struggle.
There's no question.
And I think people from that, even taking Instagram, right, they look at just these amazing lives that people supposedly lead, but really it's just their own filtered perception.
There's no question. And it's a lie.
Exactly
it's
right.
It's a lie. It's a harsh word to use, but
it is. It is.
I mean, is The Rock living an amazing life? It appears that The Rock's got a pretty good life.
Yeah.
But guess what? The Rock's probably in the gym at 4:30 in the morning, and
he
he's a
is.
very disciplined person.
Yes.
And he's willing to do things that the average person is not willing to do.
Absolutely. And he talks about that. It's interesting you bring him up because he does talk about like how he's one of the most disciplined people you'll ever meet. But you see that good side of his life, that amazingness, but there's also the discipline, and people want that outcome of this amazing life, but they don't understand how hard and how much work it takes to get there. If you're willing to do the stuff you need to do, you can get there eventually. But 99.9% of the people out there aren't willing to do it.
Right. So back to chapter 2, you conclude that chapter. You're talking a little bit about attitude transformation techniques. You mentioned affirmations, visualizations, positive self-talk, and kindness.
Yeah.
Now, this is where you and I may differ a little bit.
Yeah.
I feel that affirmations and I feel affirmations can be helpful.
Yeah.
It kind of a little bit odd to me, but but I will tell you, I also believe, going back to a Jim Rohn philosophy, that affirmations without action is the prelude to delusion. Would you believe that?
100%. Yeah, you can't just look at yourself in the mirror and say, I am awesome, and just become awesome. That's not how it works. And that may be a flaw in my book where I did not.
Oh, no, I don't think it's a flaw at all. I
should have expounded upon that a little bit more.
No, I didn't find it a flaw. I didn't, Rocco. I just think that when I hear affirmations at times, I worry a little bit because that's another element of self-development that I think has been abused over the years.
And I completely agree.
If I go on my morning walk and I say, I am great, I am the best, I can do this, and then you go home and then you don't excel in your job, or you don't try to be better, you don't try to be nicer, if you don't take the effort, the affirmations are worthless. Matter of fact, it might even do you damage.
No, absolutely. And that's, again, it's one of those things where people need to understand you can't just say shit and it appear. Like the book The Secret, and the movie. I remember when that first came out.
Yeah, not a fan, pal.
No, and then people were like, "Oh, I'm just gonna sit on my couch and just think about a Lamborghini. It's gonna appear." It's like, no, you actually have to do shit.
Yeah,
and that's but to me, affirmations are just setting that state. Right, it's that positive. It's programming your mind, and and they kind of relate to positive self-talk. There's a great book. I think it's called "What We Say When We Speak to Ourselves." It's by Shad Hostetler. I can't remember the name. He's a PhD, but he writes in a very simplistic yet eloquent way about the power of positive self-talk. And he basically says our brain is a computer, and what we say to ourselves is the software. He's like, so when we program ourselves with all this negative stuff, I can't do that, I can't do this, and we start putting negative software in our brain so it runs inefficiently. He says when you start saying positive things, you're reprogramming your computer to operate differently. And I read that book, I'm like, wow, like that's actually a very simplistic way, but it was very understandable. And it made it just for some reason clicked with me. And it's like, yeah, that's exactly what it is. And I just kind of look at my brain is that the more I can feed it positive stuff, the more positive outcomes I'm going to have. Think about it. You put good software in a computer, it runs faster, more efficient. It gets more shit done. But if you put viruses and pop-ups and malware and all that stuff in a computer, it slows it down. That's negative versus positive self-talk.
When you mention visualizations, it's a very personal thing with me. And I just share for a second why that hits home. I have been told my whole life I've been an obsessive person. So when I really found something I was passionate about, it kind of consumes me.
Okay.
Sometimes that's been wonderful. Sometimes it's not been so wonderful.
Sure.
But the visualization part of it, whether I am resting, whether I am exercising, whether I'm driving, I can visualize where I'm going to be, where I'm going to go, what I'm going to be doing, how it's going to look, whether it's any achievement in my life. It's been such a powerful mental state for me that almost to the point where I almost feel it. I can be there in my mind and feel it. And when that happens to me, I migrate toward that, and I generally, and it may not look exactly, when it got there, it may not look exactly what it looked like in my head, but it was damn close. Yeah. So visualization to me is huge, and if I don't feel something visually, I know it's not the right thing for me. Yeah. At 53, I've gotten to that point. If I don't feel it in that way and can see it, I'm probably going down the wrong path.
Yeah.
Does that make any sense?
No. That's first of all, that's amazing self-awareness. That you're that aware to understand that feeling, that intuition you have, right? to me, visualization is so powerful. Like, I create vision boards every single year.
Now, what is that?
So a vision board is really, I just use it. People do them different ways, but I get a piece of poster board every January, the beginning of the year, and I just write things or cut out pictures, things I want to accomplish that year. I make a visual representation of the things I want to accomplish. So like, if I want to go on a trip, I'll put that. If I want to buy a car, if I want my revenue to be X, if I want to start this new business, I put these visual representations of it on this board, and I put it on my wall in my home office, so I see it every single day. Now, it's interesting because I put, we were talking beforehand about my law office, right? At the beginning of the year, I put this outlandish goal in my mind on that board. And I said, this is my vision, and my real goal was a lot less. I'm going to blow that number out of the water. That's the power of visualization, because I saw that every day. And when you said, when you feel it and you can kind of see it and it comes together, that's your subconscious mind bridging the gap. It's what it sees that that's what you want. It believes that that's the reality, so it has to find a way to bridge the gap. And that's the power of visual. Now, I'm not a scientist or a psychologist. That's just from my own reading and research. But it's really, when you can feel it, like you said, you have to be able to feel the visualization. It's not about, when it feels off, that's not right. But when you know it's there and you can see it so vividly, like a movie, your subconscious mind will find a way to bridge the gap between reality and what your brain is telling you is reality.
Okay, that's a good point, because with me, how it works is I concentrate and focus on it. If it gets that level of clarity, the work to get there will suddenly appear in front of me.
Exactly,
it doesn't
right.
do the work for me.
Right.
But the pathway to get there becomes very clear.
Yep.
And that does not supersede doing the work. The work is sitting there for me to go tackle.
Yeah.
But the pathway becomes very clear. And I think that's what The Secret missed.
Yeah, I agree.
It was the fact, I love the concept of visualization and concentration and really believing in yourself and your dreams. I get all that stuff, but without taking action or avoiding the uncomfortableness to get that, it's kind of a lie.
Yeah, no, I completely agree.
When you say lie in The Secret, that's a great movie. It could have been a great movie.
Exactly. It was an okay movie, because it missed the mark.
It's only halfway done.
Yeah, it missed the mark. Exactly right. It gave you the part that, that's important. There's this whole other piece that without this, nothing happens.
It's a dream.
It's a dream. Exactly right. It's a dream, but you got to take the action.
Love that. And the fourth point that you mentioned on the attitude transformation techniques is kindness. And I know kindness is kind of the center of your whole being. Am I right?
Absolutely. It's been my life principle. I speak about it because it's so important. And I talk about it a lot from a business perspective. And when I talk about kindness in business, the whole theory is giving someone your time with no expectation of anything in return. And I look at my life, and there's so many opportunities that I've had in my life that have come from me doing just that. Didn't expect anything, just be willing to help people and say, hey, sure, I'll give you my time. And amazing things happen when I do that. But, to change, when talking about attitude, kindness, just think about how you feel when you smile at someone, or when someone smiles at you, or when you open the door for someone. Like, one thing I love to do is every Monday I'll go to the Starbucks on the way to my office, and I buy coffee for the car behind me. Now, whatever, I just pick up the order behind me. Luckily, most times it's just someone buying a drink. I've got killed a couple times.
For the whole office.
Well, I think it was like the fourth or fifth time I've done it at this Starbucks, and I'm like, and I'll get the car behind me, and the guy's like, "Are you sure?" I'm like, "Yeah," and it was like $40 some. I'm like, "Well," I said it,
you made a commitment.
Yeah,
I
committed to it, and it's just, but like those things, like I don't want the recognition for it. It just makes me feel good, and it kind of helps you set that attitude. So I always try and engage in some sort of random act of kindness every day. It could be as simple as me just looking at someone when they walk by in the eye and smiling, or saying, "I like your shirt, nice shoes."
It's so lost in society.
It really
and guess
is.
what? Our grandparents and our great-grandparents and their great-grandparents, that was kind of the norm in social interaction.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Right?
It was. Yeah, absolutely. My grandmother taught me about kindness. She was my biggest inspiration, and she, really taught me the power of being kind to others. Yeah, exactly. I mean, she was a big inspiration in my life, and it's, kindness is just, it's underrated. It's underutilized, but it's probably one of the most powerful things there is.
A smile opens so many doors, and I think if there's anything I could have that I could suggest to, especially our younger folks, learn that early.
Yes.
Learn that early. I'm not just talking about work environments. I'm talking social environments, which I think might be a little easier for us, but definitely in relationships.
Yeah, absolutely.
Be the first one to smile, and it's amazing the opportunities come, but they don't get that.
Yeah, it's too many people are walking around with their phone and not even looking. You know, I that is one of the, and I've been guilty of it, obviously, right? If I'm doing something, but I always try when I'm walking on a street or through a hallway, just to keep my head up and look and smile at any person I have the opportunity to, because that smile may be what they needed in that moment to turn a shitty day into a good day. And we don't know that. We don't know that, but that's how the world works. That stuff happens, and that stuff's important. And when people get away from that, giving away those random acts of kindness, that's why society is the way it is today.
There's no question. And I'd even take it a step further. Examples in my life, and I'm sure you can expound as well, but taking tense situations that I might have been uncomfortable going into, contentious situations. I'm a realtor. There's been some closings where there was contentious situations. The most disarming and positive thing I can do is walk in there with a smile on my face, be genuine, shake hands. Yes. And it's amazing over and over again how it disarms those who are generally. I mean, it's not always going to work, but it puts the odds in your favor. Would you agree?
100. I mean, I'm a lawyer, so I'm a business lawyer, and I negotiate for a living. But it's the most, kill them with kindness. I mean, the saying really is true. I mean, I've been in situations where I knew going into me, I'm like, this guy is just going to be a you know what. But I walk in there and I'm like, hey, great to meet you. Like, oh, I love your tie. And all of a sudden, they don't know how to handle it.
That's correct.
You know, and they're just like, well, I don't want to be mean to you because you're really nice. And then it usually gets things done a lot more efficiently. Because I always say, what's the point of being a dick? What's the point of being rude to someone else? You know, we're all, peel away all the stuff. We're all just people. We're all just human beings, no better or no worse than each other. If we just treated each other with a little bit of kindness and respect, this world would operate completely different. And we would be completely different as a society.
I mean, and it's still if you really, I'll walk it back.
Yeah.
I was challenged recently, Rocco. We haven't shared this off camera. This is new to you as well. I was challenged by a friend who did something that was appalling to me. Okay. And I'm going to leave it, the details doesn't matter. Okay. It was enough to get me agitated where I dwelled on it for a couple of days, which is not like me. But I read some, I always look for motivational stuff when I'm struggling, and I read, believe it or not, the ultimate in Stoic behavior, Marcus Aurelius.
Love his meditations.
And it was almost like, look, you're letting this ruin your time, ruin your life, ruin your days, your hours. And I just said, what the hell? It's not going to bother me anymore. Yeah. You know, I can't do anything about it.
Right.
I run into this person and their family 3 days later. I reached my hand out, shook their hand, bought them a drink. They came over, and after a gregarious time together on the side, he reached over to me and he looked at me and goes, I am sincerely sorry. I go, the words can't express it, yada, yada, yada. And I was already past it. Yeah. But hearing that was like, wow, that would never have came. Yeah. That peace would never have came, or even that apology. Probably didn't even need it at that point, but it never have came had I taken the other stance in how I dealt with it.
Exactly. That's exactly right. It's the reaction.
That's stoic. And it was selfish to do it that way because I was concerned on how my life was going to be, how I reacted to it. Sure. We need to be selfish occasionally like that, especially in tough situations.
Of course.
You know, but I wasn't doing anything to benefit my circumstance by taking that anger and letting it rule my day.
Right. Yeah, that's it
was a mature moment for me.
No, that's
at 53. I was astounded that I actually could do that.
See, you're learning more about it. It's like you're peeling back the onion, my friend.
And this book has been a help to me for sure.
No, but that's an amazing thing that you did when you go through a situation like that and you realize the impact that shift of perspective had.
Yeah, it was powerful.
Yeah, it absolutely is.
And powerful when you walk away from that, like, wow, why have I not been doing that in other times in my life, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so let's talk about chapter 3 for a second, leadership. Yeah. Now, I kind of breezed through this a little bit
Yeah.
because I am currently not a manager,
Okay.
you know, but leadership goes beyond business, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's being a leader in life, and it's certain principles, I believe. You know, I mean, there's leaders in business, and there's just leadership. You have to understand leadership in general and what that means. And that means, you know, I give some examples about, you know, not taking credit, but taking the blame. Like, that's a true leader, right?
Differences between being a boss and a leader.
Yeah, exactly. That's one of the differences. You know, that you know, being able to get in the game and do the work and be in the trenches with the team. You know, leaders have clarity, and they have courage, and they have empathy, and they're authentic. These are all things. They're characteristics and qualities you have to understand as an individual, because I believe to live your best life, you have to be a leader in your own life. That could be being a leader in a company, in your family, in your social circle. That doesn't mean you're in charge of people necessarily. Okay. It just means you're living a life of leadership, meaning you're doing those things. You're courageous, you're clear, you're concise, you're authentic. Those types of things is really what I'm talking about.
You know, as a father, what I tried to do with my children, because I was taught that, was I didn't come from a dictatorial parental environment. They tried to make me understand why I needed to do the things they do.
Sure.
And if they asked me to do a particular task, they would either do it with me initially, or they would show me that it wasn't coming from a heavy-handed standpoint, and it wasn't because, you know, one of the things that was most destructive to a lot of my contemporaries growing up, we would ask as kids, you know, well, why do I have to do that? And out of frustration, parents say, because I said so.
Right.
And it's funny, but in reality, it's probably the most non-productive way.
Yeah, absolutely.
To parents, correct?
Yes, absolutely, 100%. I've caught myself saying that to my kids, like, no.
Me too.
Can't say that, and I just change it. Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
But people do it in the workplace the same way.
Yeah,
You
absolutely.
can't challenge your boss.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that we've evolved as a society, that the workplace is better now.
Yeah.
But that whole fear of people's bosses has been an institutional thing in American business forever.
Well, and that's when I did my TED Talk on kindness. I did a lot of research on leadership and kindness in business, and there's statistics that show that when leaders are kind and empathetic, companies tend to be almost 2 times as successful as companies that have leaders that aren't. Because when a leader is empathetic and kind, their people trust them and they don't fear consequence. The reason why
That's a big one.
That's the big thing, because when they don't fear consequence, they tend to be more creative, productive, and innovative, because they've given themselves that room to go outside the box. Because they know even if they do and it's wrong, there's not going to be those negative repercussions from a kind and empathetic leader. That's why companies, you know, these amazing tech companies that have these incredible leaders are so successful. People are allowed to be innovative because they don't fear that consequence. And that's the shift in leadership. And it's not a command and control type leadership that gets the job done anymore. It's empathetic, it's kind, it's authentic, it's vulnerable. Being vulnerable as a leader is so important, because people want to feel that you as the leader are just like them. That's truly it. When you can bridge that gap and make people feel that we are one and the same, I just happen to be in a different position, then those people will go to battle for you. They'll fight with you. They'll fight for you. That's leadership in a business sense. Absolutely.
And that translates to families. That translates to social organizations.
Absolutely.
Charity.
Any type of group setting.
Okay.
Absolutely.
On chapter 4, we talked about, which is a big one to me personally as a reader, was passion and purpose.
Yeah.
And you say passion is the great equalizer and motivator.
Yeah. Because if you don't have passion, what's the point? Think about it, right? We get one life, right? We get one shot on earth. And if you don't have passion for something, and when I talk in the book, and I think people got confused sometimes, I'm not saying you have to have necessarily passion in your profession, but you have to have passion in life. And I remember when I was promoting the book, I was on a radio show, and the host challenged me on this, and he gave me a new perspective. And what he said is, you know, what about the guy that doesn't have passion for his job, but he works to feed his passion in woodworking. And I said, actually, that's a good point.
That's interesting.
I said, actually, you know what? I would agree with that, because he has a passion for something. So the work he's doing is the means to feed his passion. So to me, you have to find your passion in life. You have to find things you're passionate about, because that's what gives life that sense of purpose and why I want to do those things. Like, I know what my passion is. Most of the things I do in life are towards that. Oh, thank you.
You're my friend.
But that's really it. And it's so important.
Passion more important than money?
Yeah, I believe so. Asked me that 10 years ago, I might not have said the same thing. You know, money was a big driver back in the day for me. Like, I was motivated by money and material things.
Youth, though, doesn't it?
It does. It does. I think as we get older and wiser, we start, you know, I'm making more money now than I ever have, but it matters less to me than it ever has, because I'm passionate about what I do and the people I get to help and the things I get to build with individuals and entrepreneurs. That's the passion, like helping those people.
The juice of life.
Yeah, and it's the money comes with it, but the moment I stopped focusing on the money and started focusing on the passion I had for what I was doing, that's when more money came. So I believe passion is so important. It's way more important than anything, because that's that fuel, that's that driver of a life.
Get your thoughts on something.
Yeah.
I always told myself, even in corporate America, that I was going to love what I do or don't do it. And again, you know, once you have a job that you think you love and it's paying well, it's kind of hard to really you know, make it. But I made a change at one point. Went into my passion. It worked out.
Yeah.
It ran its course. I went to my other passion. It worked out. I tell people, when they ask me now as a realtor, the comment comes up all the time, well, you're always smiling, you're always such in a good mood. I said, well, I'm not always in a good mood. I had a conversation with my son on the way here. Probably didn't put me in a great mood. The point is, I really believe this, Rocco, and I want to get your thoughts on this quote, because I've heard people tell me it's baloney too. But I really adopted the following quote in my life. And I wanted to ask you this last show, and I did not. Zig Ziglar and Jim Rohn together in a very influential presentation in my life in the 90s made the following comment: help enough people along the way, bring enough smiles along the way, you'll never think about the money, but it will follow you in gobs.
100% accurate. I 100% agree with that.
And people think, oh, I saw fluff.
It's not.
I'm telling you, be excited. People laugh as a realtor. You know, here's something you'll love, and you know my business a little bit. So we have a commission on the bottom of our multi-list sheet that tells us what my broker is going to get for the transaction. So if I'm going to go shoot 4 or 5 houses, on the very bottom, written small in the corner, shows I never look at it. It really is. If my clients have passions for certain houses or not, I don't want to know, nor do I care, what the ultimate commission percentage is for this transaction. They have to be happy. They have to find the right house. They have to smile and be happy with my work. And the money will come.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter if it's a half a point difference or a whole point difference here. It just doesn't. People think I'm disingenuous. I am telling you the truth. I learned it right away. And I brought that philosophy from the guitar business into real estate. And that one philosophy has served me well, putting the needs of the client before any other component, especially the money.
Absolutely. And I wholeheartedly agree with that. And as a lawyer, I mean, it seems counterintuitive, right? Because everybody thinks lawyers were money grubby, hungry people. I mean, I remember I was speaking at a school to 6th graders, and I talk on entrepreneurship and leadership, and I said, I'm a lawyer. I said, does anybody know what that means? And one kid raises his hand and says, that means you're a blood-sucking, money-hungry ambulance chaser.
He really rattled it off.
Literally
like that?
rattled that off.
Wow.
And I said, I guess your parents might have had a bad experience with the lawyer. I said, unfortunately, that's not it. But I agree. Like, my whole goal in my practice is to just help people. And I don't care about the size of the transaction, whether it's $1 or $10,000. The more people I help, the money does follow, because when you do it from a genuine point of view, you know, I genuinely want to help somebody and I do it authentically. People know that and they can feel that and they can see that. And then they tell other people about it. And then we were talking before we started recording how I said I haven't had to do any marketing really in my business. It's all been referral based because I truly care and I truly want to help people. It
supersedes everything in the average person's mind.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. And I won't work with people that I don't think I can help or that I don't get along with because I want to, enjoy what I do.
That's power, though, to be in that position. Yeah. And I love that.
And it's something that I don't do it in a way where I think I'm better or I'm demeaning someone. It's just like, I don't think this will work because I have certain life philosophies that I don't believe you do. And if our philosophies on life aren't aligned, I don't care how much money you want to pay me. It's not worth it to me because it doesn't feel right. And that to me that's coming from an authentic place as well. And I think once people understand that and start operating that way, the money does come. But too many people get focused on that commission number on the bottom of the page, and that's the problem.
And it's not just a problem naturally in real estate. I think it's a huge problem in real estate because I think buyers that want to see a certain kind of house or are desperately looking for a certain kind of house, if you have a selfish realtor that's steering, it's steering them away from a certain property based upon what that realtor or real estate agent is going to make in commission, which is just horrible. It goes against everything that we promise to do as realtors. And not to get too specific, but you understand
absolutely.
Rocco as an attorney, you work so closely with us, you understand my point.
Yeah, absolutely.
We cannot and we should never put our financial gain or our personal business in front of the customer's needs and wants.
No, never. And I do that with my practice. There's been many times where clients have called me and I tell them, I said, this is something you can do yourself. Like, don't pay me to do this. And I can't tell you how many phone calls.
You did that with me.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many things. It's just because it's not fair to pay me something where I can just give you a few pieces of advice and you can do it yourself. I'd rather be here to help you on the stuff you really need me for. Don't waste the money on something that I believe you can do yourself.
It's an attitudinal thing.
Yeah, it is.
Now, I often have been told, I had a younger agent tell me once that, well, that's all fine and good, but that, I'm just starting out and I have to pay my rent next month. So, and I just reiterate what I say. If you lead any relationship with what's in it for you,
never works.
It's never going to work. And that goes for dating. That goes for organizations, groups, clubs.
Yep.
Wouldn't you agree?
Be of service to others.
First.
Always. Always. If you understand, if everybody listening or watching this podcast right now, if you take one thing from this episode, take that away. If you give service to others first, that is a key to professional success. I truly believe that wholeheartedly. Be of service to others.
And the way to do that is find what you're passionate about, because then it becomes easy.
Yeah,
the money is secondary.
Exactly.
I used to get chided by Fred Koala or anyone working with me at Boogie Street was, I was so, if I had a design in my head, I was so focused on getting that done.
Yeah.
I'd call the vendor, call the vendors for the raw materials and try to do all this stuff. And then they'd bring me back and say, so what's your market price for this? And I go, I didn't give that any thought. I was so, again, and that wasn't good either, but my point was I was so driven by the idea.
Yeah.
I figured the rest will work itself out, and generally it did.
Yeah.
And when it didn't, okay, I was on to the next thing.
Right.
But it was always driven about the quality or the idea or making somebody else smile or be happy first, and the money would follow. And it always, it always did.
Yeah, absolutely. It always will.
It's a very interesting philosophy, and I don't find it hard. Maybe sometimes people just have to find these philosophies on their own too. That's a good component about motivation. Can you really, really, really motivate anybody?
Well, I think you can give somebody inspiration.
Correct.
You can inspire someone, but the motivation comes from within, right? I believe inspiration is external, motivation is internal.
You want to you try to provide that spark.
Yeah, like when people say motivational speaker, I would rather say, I'm an inspirational speaker, because you'll get the motivation from yourself. Because I can't motivate you, right? I can inspire you and give you hope and give you some guidance and some tools, but you have to have that motivation from the internal piece, from inside. When you find that, that's when you move the needle forward.
You also talk in this chapter that this is a great statement, which I guess kind of encompasses where we were headed earlier. But undercover your passion through activity.
Yeah, absolutely. That's, I mean, to me,
comes back to the action.
Yeah, you got to take action, and it's you know, and I give some activities I've had clients do, and ones I've done myself, where, you know, like doing things different, like trying something new, you know, coloring. You're using different parts of your brain. That's how you start uncovering different sides of yourself and start seeing what you're really passionate about. But you got to do something. You can't just sit there and just
dream.
You know, I'm going to think and try and figure out what my passion is. No, you've got to do shit. You have to do stuff. People have to understand that if you read this book and do nothing, it's not going to work. This book is read it and then you take action. And then you take action by implementing these things we talk about, your life will change. But if you don't take the action, you're going to be sitting in the same spot 12 months from now, 100%.
Where I think also and I say we fail sometimes as humans, is that we may not even know what we're really passionate about. I'm 53. There could be some other event in my life or something I try which opens up a whole new world to me.
Sure.
Could happen.
Yeah.
It's happened to me prior in my life.
Yeah.
If you had told me when I was 20 I was going to do this, when I was 30, I would have told you you're crazy.
Yeah.
But that thing I did in my 30s changed my whole life.
Yeah.
And that's powerful. Mm-hmm. But again, if you're not willing to try or open your mind a little bit.
Right, exactly.
You'll never let it in to find out. You may not, I guess the point I'm trying to make is you may not know what your passion is yet.
Right.
Because it hasn't come your way.
Right.
You haven't taken the action to go find it.
Right. You got to do stuff. Passion's fluid, right? It's not something that's static. It's not a static. It's not like you wake up, okay, I'm 32, this is my passion, and that's going to be your passion forever. It's fluid. That changes, you know. My passions have changed over the years. Things I was passionate about in my early 30s, I may not be so passionate about right now. You know, I used to love watching movies and going to shows, not so much anymore. Like my time priorities have changed. You know, I love cooking. You know, those are things I like to do. Can you cook? Yes, I actually can cook. I mean, my wife, like she does a lot and she cooks, you know, and I love her to death, but that's my thing.
Okay.
Like that's my creative outlet.
Got it.
You know, everybody has that one thing. Cooking's my one thing. It's the only time in my life where my cooking and really playing with my kids are really the only two times in my life where my brain is completely shut off to everything else. When I'm completely in the moment.
And we need that.
Yeah, exactly. We absolutely need that. And that's, again, how you start uncovering passions, by getting in those moments of finding things that just, you get, and that's how you know it's a passion, right? When you get into that space where you're just completely ingrained in what you're doing and you're not thinking about the external world. You're not distracted. You're just in that moment, and that's how you know it's a passion of yours. Like, I love meeting people and I love helping businesses. That's a passion. So I know when I'm meeting with a client, if my phone goes off, I don't even feel it because I'm so in the moment.
Right.
I'm just talking and helping them solve a problem and build a company or create something out of nothing. That's my passion. So I know it's my passion because when I'm in those moments, a bomb could go off next to me and I'm not going to even pay attention to it. That's how you start discovering those things. So you kind of got to look at your life and say, have you had moments like that? And what were you doing in those moments? And I give those techniques in the book about how to kind of uncover those things.
And I wish that on anybody.
Yeah.
For somebody who was able to make a living, such as yourself, in an area that you're extremely 100% passionate about.
Yeah.
It's such a beautiful way to live.
Yeah.
Again, that doesn't mean that we don't have challenges, but the essence of earning a living and not looking at it as work is a beautiful gift.
It is.
And I wish that on everybody. I
Absolutely.
just do. But, you know, of course, doesn't happen.
No, absolutely.
But it's you get it.
Yeah. I mean, I always say I feel extremely blessed, and I'm completely grateful for the life I get to live. Is it challenging? Absolutely. I mean, I don't, you know, every month I start at zero. That's what I always say. Like, you start at zero. But I wouldn't have it any other way. Like, we're sitting here on a Friday afternoon getting to do this, and I love it. And
having a few beers.
Yeah, and I'm not worried about where I have to be.
Right.
And
But you built this life.
Right. It took work, and I work my ass off, you know, all the time. But I don't look at it as work. I just look at it as part of who I am.
Sure.
And I love it, and I feel very fortunate, and I I operate from the place of that I know it can all be taken away from me. So I never take it for granted.
Chapter 5 talks about hard work as the great equalizer. I know we've kind of touched on that too, but some of the specifics you talked about energy management.
Yeah.
What's that mean?
So people talk about time management, right? That's the big buzzword we'll say in personal development. There is no such thing. We all get 24 hours, right? You get 24 hours a day. I get 24 hours a day. The most successful people know how to manage their energy within those hours. It's not about managing the time, because time's finite. You can't make more of it. We can't buy it. We can't create it. We get 24 hours. So it's okay. How do I maximize these 24 hours? I maximize it by understanding my energy and how my energy flows. What parts of the day am I more creative in? What parts of the day am I a little bit more sluggish? And how do I do things in those moments that can maximize that hunk of time? So it's really about managing your energy. And once I understood, because I used to always say time management, think about, I got to manage my time better. Well, no, once I learned, and I can't remember where I read it, it's in a book, I read it. And they gave this explanation, like, this is brilliant, because it really is what it is. It's managing your energy. Like, I know I'm more creative early in the day. So I structure my day that when I got to do creative stuff, I do it before noon. I know that my administrative stuff, the stuff that just has to be done, is that 2 to 4 o'clock slump where I'm just like, I don't feel like doing shit, but I'm going to do these 7 things I need to do that are mindless. And I even talk about how days of the week, understanding the days of the week that you know, like some days I like meetings, some days I like doing just work. You know, there's a lot of different things, and it's understanding your energy, how it ebbs and flows is how you maximize your productivity within the time we have.
Got it. You mentioned journaling as being a part of your recommended, which I'm huge on. I does a big Jim Rohn thing. I learned that early on, and if you ask me the one thing, activity-wise, which helped me from day one, it was writing every day. Pages, sometimes a paragraph. But every day.
I journal every morning. Every single morning I journal.
It's incredible.
It's a power. It just helps you dump your thoughts, right?
Therapeutic.
It is, and it's. I look back at my journal sometimes. I'm like, what the hell was I going through in that moment? Like, I'll just write shit that you're just like, what? I remember. I actually just did this about 2 weeks ago. I was up in I have all my old journals in my office at home, and I remember going back through and looking at one of them, and I just randomly went to a page and read it, and I just looked at and I thought, I don't know what was going on in my life at that point in time, but something must have just blew up, because it was just completely a different thought process. But it's interesting to now go back and look at that, and it helps you really analyze yourself and become self-aware of things, you know, your faults, your weaknesses. And it is very therapeutic. I mean, it's a great thing. It takes a couple minutes every day.
I don't believe in trusting our memory, and the older I get, I don't want to trust my memory. So you have this, but for me, traditionally, and the last couple of years I haven't done it on schedule, but for a long period of time, Rocco, I would take that period between Christmas and New Year's, and not naturally in real estate, it's a little slower generally during that time, but every industry was that way. And I would take that time and I would reread the whole year. No schedule, just pick it up an hour or two here, but I would go back and reread the whole year.
Okay.
And it refreshed where I've been, what I've done, what I was thinking, but it helps my memory with my own life. And that's come back to help me later in life when I needed to remember, hey, in 92 I did this. In 97 in July I was doing this. And it's a personal thing, but that helps me in conversations, and it helps me as being the family historian to some degree. But I believe that actually comes not just from the daily writing, but going back, and once a month I would review the month. But I would take the whole time between Christmas and New Year's and review the life.
Dude, that's awesome.
And sometimes it's not always pretty.
I've had some ups and downs this year, definitely.
And some years you'll write more than others, but and listen, for anyone that's listening to this, I can speak as a longtime journaler. You know, be smart. You know, don't leave them open. Don't leave them open. Secure the documents if these are truly your personal thoughts. And I encourage you to write your most personal thoughts. Get it out.
Absolutely.
Protect that. Do it online. Lock them up. Make sure you do that stuff. But don't be afraid to be honest with yourself. And it's 20 plus years for me now. And you know, am I embarrassed by some of the things I wrote 16 years ago or 8 years ago? Sure I am. but no one's viewing them but me.
Right.
And that self-assessment's important. Would you not agree?
I agree, and that makes you who you are, right? Like I never even thought about going back and reading the whole year. Like I'm definitely going to do that this year.
Another own tip.
No, I'm taking that tip away from this. I'm definitely going to do that. And let me ask you a question. Do you find yourself, like I find, at least when I'm journaling, when things are going shitty or haywire in my life, I tend to write a lot more. When things are going well, I don't write. I mean, I still journal every day, but my entries are not as long.
Generally, I'm the opposite.
Okay.
Generally.
Interesting.
If
Okay.
there's a very difficult time in my life, I went through a couple tumultuous months last year.
Yeah.
Legally.
Yeah.
But I wasn't. I wrote a little more during those months than I do when I'm down. But I never used it. I never used the journal to complain.
Okay.
And I don't know why.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was something I read. But the more you do it, I think the more honest you become.
Yeah.
I think you're guarded in the beginning
Yeah.
for the first couple of months.
Yep.
Like, do I really want to write this
Yeah,
out? Do I want to
absolutely.
be honest with myself? But it's so therapeutic. And, it's your inner thoughts. So depending on how detailed you get, protect it.
Yeah.
But in all honesty, that honesty that you give yourself there is as pure as it comes.
Yeah.
It could be better than anything you'd even admit to a therapist.
Yeah, and it's so powerful. Just that
You can learn from it. You'll learn from your mistakes if you're paying attention.
that's the point. You got to pay attention. That's exactly right. Because I've known people that have just journaled for the sake of journaling, but didn't know why they were doing it. It's like, well, because it's one, the therapy, and then it kind of it helps you understand yourself. But if you're not going back and looking at them and understanding where you came from, I think that's where people miss when they journal. They just write and then put it away. And then don't look back and try and learn from the entries. And I think, like you said, it's history. So you got we study history books in school. Why not study the history of our lives?
Your life's important enough to create a history.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly right.
And for me, I guess the biggest takeaway that I have learned over the years in just reading myself in priors, and it's comical. I mean, what I thought was important and certain each year was just, here I sit here as a 53-year-old man that I could not believe these things were important.
Right.
But I took a lot from where I was at that point in my life on my reasoning ability.
Okay.
And I watched the evolution of my reasoning, my justification for things.
Yeah.
At times my self-delusion in justifying decisions I made.
Yep.
Which I look back and say, if I really was being honest with myself back then, I can't believe I was. But if I was, that's horrific. I mean, you learn. You really, it's amazing. But I try not to be too hard on myself. It's the tapestry of your life.
It is.
And your writings are a reflection of where you are at that moment in time.
They're snapshots in time.
And maybe when I'm 73, I look back at today's and I'll go in the same astonishment, like, what the hell were you thinking?
Right. Yeah,
Who knows,
exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
But it's so powerful, but I think why are people afraid to journal, Rocco?
I think they're afraid of their own thoughts. I think they're afraid of what's going to come out. I think people, and I've been talking a lot about this recently with, on my podcast, it's just with people that darkness we all have, right? We have this dark side and I think when I look at myself, even over the past 4 or 5 months, I've changed a lot. I've been working with a new coach. I've been just doing some new interesting things and learning.
Why did you change coaches?
Well, I was working with someone in the past, and we just stopped working together. And I met this guy through one of the speaking events I did in New York, and I look at him like he's me 20 years from now.
Okay.
And we just connected, and he's super insightful, and he's just really helped me learn a lot about myself. And part of learning that was that darkness we all have inside, being okay with it and embracing it instead of trying to, because I think people get afraid of, well, we do, what if I say the wrong thing, or what if I am a bad person, or what if I have these not so great qualities? And so they're afraid to journal and talk about it because they're afraid of what's going to come out. But when you look at the darkness, there's the yin and yang of life, right? They're to light and dark, to find your light, you've got to walk through the darkness. And I had to learn because with myself, my own journey was, there were a lot of things I didn't like about myself that I was kind of not hiding, but just kind of repressing. Like, let's just not
personally?
Yeah, personally. Like, just, not talking about that. Like, I looked at myself as, and I'll be very open. So I say, okay, there's two sides of me, right? There's this side that people look at and they're like, he's a great guy, he's nice, he's sweet, he's kind, which is true, right? There's also this other side of me, that I can be cold and calculated and emotionless.
The motherfucker.
Yeah, exactly. Like there's the motherfucker, okay? And there's these two sides of me, right? And certain people in my life only see this side. Certain people in my life only see this side. There's other people that see them both. I was always worried about this side. Like, what, is that me? Then I learned to embrace it. And I said, that's what makes me good at what I do. Because I can, one, balance the two. I can mesh them together when I have to. They both are who I am. But until I realized that and embraced this side, that motherfucker side of me, I wasn't operating at my highest potential. The moment I did that, everything in my life just everything started working differently. And
wow.
When I was telling you like how in July, like things started to take off for me, that's when I started to discover this. And all of a sudden it was like that, boom, just took off because I embraced that side of me that I was worried about embracing.
So to be practical about trying to analyze that, you're a ferocious attorney in a classy way. That's how you've been described to me by multiple people.
Yeah. Okay.
So there are times, I'm guessing, in negotiations, in courtrooms, whatever it is, that you have to, in protection and defense of your client, have to be ferocious, have to be cunning, strategic.
Yep.
Does some of that lie in your dark side?
Yeah, absolutely. It's being able to take emotion out of things, being able to do something cold and calculated without, knowing I'm doing it for the interest of my client, but not thinking about the repercussions of what else could it impact, the collateral damage.
The emotional part of it.
Yeah, the emotional side of it. But it's like, okay, and I know that side of me. And I even look back, like when I was younger, like I didn't necessarily feel guilt sometimes. Like in relationships, I do stupid shit and I wouldn't feel guilt.
We all have.
Right. But that was a dark side of me that worried me. But then, working with this coach, we were just talking about it, and he helped me come to realize that that's really what makes me good at what I do, because I have that side and embrace it. And it doesn't define who I am. It's part of who I am.
It's controlled.
Exactly. It's controlled. Exactly. I know how to control it. I can turn it off and turn it on when I have to. Like my wife and kids, like they know both. My wife knows both sides of me. Like she's the person that knows me best. She's seen me at my best and she's seen me at my worst, and she loves me either way. She's also the person that can, turn me into a baby very quickly. Like she has that power over me. Like she can turn me soft. Most people in my life, they see one side or the other. And as I've gotten older and learned to manage the two, and as I embrace this side, I've been able to work them together to become this person who's now embraced both my light and my dark. And I believe it's made me a better attorney. It's made me a better professional. It's made me a better person because I'm not afraid of it anymore. I'm not hiding it anymore. I'm letting it be and just being who I am.
It's interesting.
And it's
very interesting.
I don't know how we got there from the journaling.
Well, I think it ties right in because you're revealing your dark side.
Yeah.
Some people might be afraid to do that. And
Yeah.
I would encourage you, maybe if you're starting journaling or you're just getting into it, I encourage you to do that.
Yeah.
I went full bore. My journals are no holds barred, and I wouldn't want them falling into the hands of anybody. Not that anything is going to legally,
right?
But I mean, our thoughts are our thoughts. Yep. My argument always was when I was writing was if I denied myself the honesty, then what the fuck am I doing it for?
Exactly. There's no point. If you're not going to be honest,
then I might as well write a novel then.
Exactly.
Because for someone else's mind, their eyes, someone else's eyes.
Yeah.
It's not mine.
Exactly.
To move on, journaling could be a whole other show with you.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you also talk about routines to increase productivity.
Yeah, absolutely. But my morning and my evening routine are my bookends of my day. And they are things that I believe everybody should have. Like we talked about earlier, how that first hour to 90 minutes of my day is mine. And I do certain things. I journal, I write down things I'm grateful for, I read, I meditate, I exercise, like I do certain things. My evening routine is really planning out my next day. It's eliminating decisions that I have to make, because there's plenty of studies out there, and I can't remember the name of it. There's one good book that talks about, I think it's called The One Thing. But there's a book that talks
Gary Keller?
It might be. But he talks about how our brain has the capacity to make a finite number of decisions a day. So,
which I think social media is really pressing against now.
absolutely,
right?
Yeah, and it's because we're on there and we're saying, do I want to like this or not like it? Those are decisions we're all making. People don't understand like how every little thing
conditioning.
is exactly, but it's so if you have the ability to make 10,000 decisions a day, right? If I can eliminate, and I know that 5,000 of those have to be important decisions where I actually need to be pensive and thoughtful in doing that. Well, if I can eliminate some of those decisions by making them the night before when I don't need to be thoughtful, I can say, what am I going to wear? Pack my gym bag, pack my lunch, set my keys where I need them to be. So I don't have to think in the morning. I can just get up, do my routine, and then go. I've eliminated 20 decisions I had to make. If I can stay off of social media till later in the day and not going through and scrolling and liking and commenting, those are every time I scroll or decide to scroll or decide to click like, that's a decision I'm making, and that's taking away capacity from my brain. So having
interesting.
It's the truth, but having those routines where you eliminate inconsequential decisions until you've made all the consequential ones really helps set yourself up for success and be way more productive.
Okay. Yeah.
See? So stop looking at Facebook and Instagram till the afternoon.
That's great. That's great advice.
Yeah.
I'm going to try that.
Well, people don't get that those little things are decisions your brain is making. You may think you're mindlessly scrolling, but your brain's processes are working.
Every post.
Yeah, and you're saying
and making an evaluation on it.
Exactly.
Right?
Your brain is making many decisions. Should I scroll? Should I like? Should I stop? Should I look at this story? Should I click to the next story? Should I keep, every time you go like that, decision. You're depleting your decision bank. For what?
And so that probably contributes to mental fatigue, especially as and in
absolutely.
all seriousness, as the older you get, you probably have the capacity to do less and less of those decisions per day.
Absolutely. Yep.
I'm a little frightened right now.
That's okay, man.
But you outlined your morning routine. We'll cruise through these. Gratitude, personal development.
Yep.
Personal development, do you try to read something every day? Is that pretty much what that's about?
Yeah. So my routine has changed over the years. So this is the crazy person I am. So I like to do cardio in the morning, right? So I have an elliptical or a bike in my basement that I get on. And so if I do it for, say, 45 minutes to an hour, I spend the first 20 minutes using Duolingo, the app. I'm relearning French.
All right.
So I took French in high school for 4 years and 2 semesters in college.
Good for you.
It's just, it works a different part of my brain. Then the other, say 30 to 40 minutes, I either actually read a book while I'm working out, or I'll watch a YouTube video or listen to a podcast.
Right.
Something that's informational and informative.
Okay.
But yeah, that's my personal development. Usually it's reading. I like to actually read books.
Clear your head. What do you mean? Mm-hmm. How do you do it?
So that's journaling is one. Journaling is probably the biggest way I clear my head. Meditating is the other way.
Okay.
So in the morning, it's 5 to 10 minutes.
Do you meditate before writing or after writing?
So I usually do it before. So journaling might be the last thing I do with my morning routine now.
Okay.
I meditate, like I'll listen to guided meditations on YouTube for usually like 5 to 10 minutes, and then just clear my head, and then shower. Then once I'm downstairs in my kitchen, before I have breakfast, I'll get my journal and just write. And it's interesting because I used to do it before. I used to do it when I first woke up, and I feel now that after I do it, after everything else, and once I meditate, my thoughts come out a little bit more clear.
Okay. You also talk about prepare for your day, which is kind of self-explanatory. You also do review goals, though.
Yeah. I look at my goals. Well, I write them down every morning, right? Then I review them before I go to bed. Okay. I look at them every night before I go to bed. Reread them what I wrote in the morning. You
conclude that chapter by saying hard work is a choice very few make.
It is.
That's a very honest statement.
Yeah. I mean, and I don't mean it to disrespect anybody in any way, but it's most people that think they're working hard are working enough.
Another Ronism. Yeah. He would say, people would come to me and talk about how hard they're working.
Yeah.
And I would say, are you working hard? Are you just bouncing and careening from wall to wall all day, getting beat up, and not accomplishing anything?
Right. Exactly.
And that would always stay in my mind, through the years, like, I'm so tired. I feel like I'm doing it. What have I really done?
Right. Are you busy or are you productive?
Right. Self-evaluation.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a daily self-evaluation.
Yeah.
You got to get there.
Yeah, absolutely. I try and tell myself that when I lay my head in the bed at night, did I accomplish what I needed to accomplish? And do I feel like I gave it 100%? Now, there are days where I don't. I know that about myself. There are days where I'm like, no, I shit the bed today 70%. I'm okay with that because I'm self-aware. If I see a pattern developing where I'm like, okay, I've been procrastinating for a few days, then I have to do that self-assessment, say, what's wrong? What has changed? What's going on in my life that's distracting me?
Well, the next line was the procrastination element and the no hustle argument.
Yeah, right. Again, hustle has this negative connotation, I feel like, or it's
been bastardized too, though. The whole word has been. It has. Marketing wise.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's hustle to me is just doing what needs to be done until it's done. I mean, that's really it. It's like you have to be willing to do what needs to be done until it's done. Too many people say, well, I'll do a little bit now, I'll do a little bit tomorrow. It's like, no, if you can finish it, finish it. Put in the work, put in the effort. It's about having that work ethic. Because if I maximize my 24 hours every day and you maximize 12 of yours, I'm going to get there twice as fast.
Correct.
And people, it's math. I mean, it really is. It's like, how am I using those hours and am I maximizing them? And if you and I are going in the same direction and I'm maximizing 16 and you're maximizing 8, I'm going to get there twice as quick. And I'm going to beat you every time. But people don't understand, like, you've got it, but it's a choice I've made.
Right.
I've chosen to make that life or to put in that amount of work.
So the word hustle gets used quite a bit today in the vernacular. And there's a bunch of, I wouldn't say influencers. There's some motivational gurus on all social media platforms bastardizing that word. To me, hustle needs one word in front of it.
Okay.
And I've always believed this. And it'd be good. And Rocco, my author friend, this might be a great title for a book.
Okay.
Just throwing it out there.
Okay.
And if it is already to someone, I apologize. Smart hustle.
Yeah. Okay. I like that.
Because if not, activity for the sake of activity is delusion.
Exactly. That's exactly right. Yeah. That's the busy, productive argument. Some people just say they're hustling, but they're just busy doing nothing or doing a bunch of random shit. You have to have intention. It boils down to the intention.
That's a big word.
Maybe intentional hustle.
Intentional hustle.
Because you got to know why you're doing it. Like, why am I doing this? And I try, because I know.
Well, you could say intentional hustle, and that can mean fuck off. So we mean this. I like smart better. Because I can intentionally want to fuck off for the day.
That's a good point.
I've done that a few times.
No, we've all done that. Trust me. I think before I left my office to come here, I was intentionally not doing something for like 30 minutes. I'm like, let me just look at cars or look on Facebook. Or, I wasn't hustling.
Car guy, eh?
I wasn't hustling. But no, I agree. I mean, that's a good point. Like putting that word in front of it.
I don't know. I mean, because I love the fact that I'm bombarded daily by some motivational stuff. Brands selling theirs. Right. I don't buy into most of it, but I like the fact that the algorithms know me as someone who is productivity driven.
Yeah, right.
At least that's some kind of backward ass compliment from the interwebs is giving me.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, they definitely are saying this guy is productive or wants to be productive.
Wants to be productive, right?
Exactly.
On chapter 6, you talk about accountability. This is the hard part for most people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so you get the activity. You say take 100% accountability for everything that happens in your life. I'll read it again. You state take 100% accountability for everything that happens in one's life.
Yes.
And I have to say, I agree with that.
Yeah.
It's not easy.
No, it's not.
Painful.
It's probably the hardest thing to do because it's human nature to blame something or someone for things that don't go our way, right? I mean, that's really true. If you look back at life, you look at just society in general, people look for someone to blame.
Our politicians, both sides of the aisle, do it every day.
It's not my fault. It's someone else's fault.
Every day.
But when you understand accountability and take responsibility for your own life, everything that happens and doesn't happen in your life is 100% your fault. Then you start to operate differently. And Jack Canfield's book, The Success Principles, the formula he gives, that E plus R equals O, the event plus a reaction equals an outcome. Right. Those 3 letters changed my life because that taught me this principle. It's like, okay, if I can't control the event, I can control the reaction. Therefore, I'm 100% in control of the outcome because I control one of the variables. And it's when you understand
Repeat that again. That's very powerful.
So it's an event plus a reaction equals the outcome. In life, you always control at least one of the variables. If I control the event, great. If I can't control the event, I can control how I react to it. Therefore, I always control the outcome. So therefore, I'm 100% responsible and accountable in my life because I have that control. People don't get that though. They
might get it. They might not want to get it.
Well, right. That's the thing. Like I give the example. Okay, if I'm in traffic and someone cuts me off, that event I can't control. So I can get pissed and then
fascinated.
Exactly. but it's that choice. I get to make that choice. Therefore, the outcome is me being pissed off for the next 20 minutes and maybe doing something I shouldn't do, or not letting it bother me and going about my day. Therefore, I'm 100% in control of my life. 100% accountable and responsible because I can control that variable. I can control that reaction.
And to not act on that is almost giving up control.
Sure.
And being in a purely reactional state.
Yeah, you're the victim
all the time.
It's the victim mentality. When people don't want to take responsibility and accountability, they play the victim card. Well, it's not my fault. Like I hear people say this all the time. Well, I hate my job. Change it. Do something different.
You're not a tree.
Right.
Move,
do something
move.
different. You know, I've had so many people that I've known in my life. That's the one complaint. I just don't like what I do. Okay, but then why are you there? Well, I can't find another job. Have you looked? Well, a little bit. Well, how much? How many resumes have you sent out? Well, right. That's what I'm saying. But it's like, because people aren't taking accountability. But the people that do take accountability are the ones that live their best life. Because they know that if I want something different, if I want a different result, I have to engage in a different process.
It's really a simple statement, a simple formula.
It is.
It is.
It truly is.
We all should be embarrassed on how simple the concept is.
Yeah, right.
It's just that we choose out of, I don't know if it's human laziness, fear, all kinds of adjectives we can throw in there.
Yep.
But stagnation will kill you.
100%.
Whether it's physically or emotionally, it will kill your soul.
Absolutely. 100%. People don't get that. It's just, to me, like you said, it's so simple. Just do something different. That's it. It's your control. You're in control of it.
Now, taking accountability for once you take action is also important as well too.
Yes.
That's the second part.
Yes. And that I think maybe is even the harder part. You know, especially in the professional world, right? Like I've worked with companies or been in companies where people wondered why profits were decreasing, sales were decreasing, yet no one was accountable. No one wanted to take accountability as to why. I could have pointed out the 50 reasons why things weren't working, but no one was accountable for the outcome because no one wanted to take the accountability. But when you add accountability into the mix, that's when things change. Take a company, for instance. You know, if I'm in sales, we'll say, and I have certain quotas to make, right? And I don't meet those quotas. Do you know that in most organizations, those people just remain employed?
And that has to be the last 2-decade phenomenon, because when I was in corporate America, it wasn't that way.
It's at least in my experience,
I think it is that way now.
It is that way.
It's difficult to terminate an employee today.
Yeah, well, because lawyers like me, apparently.
Well, I guess, but it just, I think culturally we're just different now.
It's the culture and society. I watched organizations, just go downhill because my thing is if you're not producing what I pay you to produce, don't let the door hit you in the ass. Too many corporate cultures is like, well, we don't want to get rid of them. And then they create this culture of no accountability, yet wonder why the results are what they are.
You think that was a post 9/11 philosophy?
I feel like that's actually a good point.
I hate to take some moment in time.
No, you're right.
But it seems like the culture in work America changed, which many assumed it was for the better. In hindsight, I'm not really sure it was.
No, that's actually a really good assessment. I would agree with that because it's not good. It's not. I mean, what are we teaching the generation coming up? Right? You can be mediocre and still have a job.
Everybody gets a trophy in philosophy.
don't even get me started on that. It's a whole different topic, because and that's part of the problem, right? And that's, people just expect to be compensated just for being there.
Well, that goes right into what you're talking about. That's not accountability.
No.
That's a lie.
No, you feel you're entitled, and it's bullshit.
A lie.
Yeah, exactly.
And to do that to our children, where that foundation is started, we're lying to them. No, Jimmy, that 65% on your school paper is not acceptable.
Yeah.
Or no, yes, you did work hard at making the baseball team, but you didn't make it.
Yeah.
And that's okay. We love you the same. But you have to understand that your work was not enough.
Yeah.
And maybe it was genetics.
Yeah.
Maybe it was just your hard work. But that's the breaks of life.
That is exactly
Now go
right.
find something that you can be passionate about.
Right.
Jimmy.
Right. No, right. I mean, I would always...
Parents don't want to hear that.
No, you're right. But I used to always say to my son...
I'm a cold-hearted bastard for saying that.
That's okay. Here's the dark side of me, the cold side of me, where I would say second place is the first loser. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's really it. It's like, and I would never say that's, I would tell my son, like, there's nothing wrong. That means someone's better than you, or they outworked you. Mm-hmm. So if you didn't give 100%, you know why you lost. If you gave 100%, that's okay. Someone's going to be more talented than you in life. That's okay. But understand that second place is the first loser. Because in life, there's really only one. I mean, there's a winner and a loser.
Right.
This whole everybody wins. Everybody can come out with something in certain situations. They talk
about
business.
Learning? How they come out with learning?
Well, right. That's the thing. You got to look at it like that way. There's these win-win situations, and in business we talk about win-win. Mm-hmm. There's never really a win-win. There's someone always compromises
win
something.
And learn.
Right. Or win and compromise. That's usually what it is. But we created this society where this shit is happening, and it's not good. And that's why this accountability is lacking. But when you add it back in, that's when you operate differently.
Well, in the 80s, corporate America threw some very good books, and I think it was Tom Peters' In Search of Excellence.
Okay.
I know I'm dating you a little bit. I lived that as a very young man entering the workforce. Mm-hmm. I graduated in the 80s and then started working a white-collar job in the late 80s.
Okay.
In Search of Excellence was a big thing.
Okay.
And it was a great book. It was life-changing for me at that time because I already loved to be nice to people in the work environment because things came my way.
Sure.
I didn't know I was doing it.
Yep.
But wow, the nicer I am, the better my breaks seem to be. But this book kind of took that in a formalized way, and it was very big in corporate culture for a while, Rocco. And it was, but in the end, that strive for excellence, that strive to be the best and all that, and it wasn't an affront. It wasn't a negative thing. It was trying to be the best. Every organization should try to do that.
Yeah.
You want to earn as much as you possibly can in a legal and ethical way.
Right.
What's wrong with that?
Nothing.
Somewhere along the line, the drive for excellence has been replaced by the acceptability of mediocrity.
Yeah.
And the reward
Yes.
of mediocrity, in the essence that it's okay. We know it's hard. You did your best.
Yeah.
As long as someone does their best on anything, genuinely do their best,
Yep.
I will commend them.
Yeah.
But I would also harshly probably tell them, you know what, the best wasn't good enough, and this might not be the field for you.
Exactly.
Or
Simple as that.
or the activity for you.
Yep.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Exactly. That's exactly right. My mother said that to me after my freshman year of college. When I came home, I went to college on an academic scholarship, and I had a 2.1 GPA at the end of my freshman year. She didn't get mad. She just looked at me and said, well, if that's the best you can do. That simple statement was like, fuck no, I can do way better than that. And I had a 4.0 every semester after that. But it took someone to call me out on that. Like I knew, and she truly said that, like, if that's the best you can do, then that's the best you can do. And I knew it wasn't. I knew I didn't work hard. I knew I screwed around. I pledged to fraternity. I did stupid shit, and I shit the bed that year. So I knew. But it's, again, like what you said, it's people need to hear that.
I'll give you a harsher example.
Yeah.
I have a friend who had one of their children, I want to say maybe sophomore year in high school, came back and it was like a 1.6 average. And the rest of the kids had done very well.
Yeah.
And this father thought this was his brightest child, and he said, "Well," the kid was a little sheepish, giving the grades at the dinner table, and the father looked at him and said, "Well, if you did your best," I said, "I can't. We're going to get you some help. But if this is your best, it's okay. We're going to get you some help, or else you're just going to be a dumbass. One of the two. But if you want to be a dumbass, and that's really what you want to be." Then okay, then I guess I can accept that. It's a shame, but if you want to be a dumbass, But it was that spark. It was that motivation. It was a little course.
Yeah, sure.
But it was that reality, giving the child the option.
Yes.
To admit, is this your best?
Yeah.
Or are you just fucking off?
Exactly. No, that's exactly, and that's powerful.
And it worked. The kid just immediately 3.5, 3.7, and now it's just graduating from the computer science division of Pitt University.
That's awesome.
The point is, it was that moment, and my friend talks about that moment.
Mm-hmm.
He was just being lazy, and we were letting them.
Yeah.
But we gave him the choice.
Yeah.
You're going to be labeled a dumbass.
Yeah.
Or you're just not really putting the effort in.
Yeah.
You make the decision.
Yeah. That's a powerful thing to do. I mean, I think
it's a risky thing to do.
but I think as a parent, like, I think it's something we need to do, right?
Yeah.
It's putting the. I mean, sometimes we have to give our kids power. We have to give them the power to decide who they are. Like, have that look in the mirror moment where, is this who I am? Is this all I'm capable of?
Is this this really all?
And I'll have that discussion, I know, with my daughters as they get older, because I want the best for them.
But we all do.
Yeah,
sure.
and I'll have that moment where, if they don't do something well, I'll ask them that question. Well, is this all you are? And
it's pretty powerful.
It is. I mean,
even to ask an adult, that'd be very powerful.
Yeah. And I think a lot of adults need to be asked that question. Absolutely.
They need to ask themselves that question.
Yeah. I mean, I've done that to myself. I've asked
all
myself that.
I think so.
Is this all I'm capable of?
You talk about a measuring success, and obviously every industry is different.
Yeah.
But what about personal measurements? Like, we'll talk a little bit about measuring personal success.
Yeah, I think that's really different for everybody, right? It's how, how do you look at your life? What do you define? I think you got to know what the definition of success is, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, you and I probably define success differently. Mm-hmm. I look at, in my life.
He drives a nicer car than me.
I don't even know what you drive, but I don't know.
Believe me, you drive a nicer car than me.
Well, so I look at myself, success to me is freedom.
Amen.
Like being free to do what I want. And so I measure my success that way. If I feel free, if I feel the ability to do what I want to do and build the life I want to live, like, that's my measure of success. And and that changes over time, right? It's not a static measurement that says, okay, this is, 30, 40, 50, success is all the same. It's a moving target.
Right.
But it's being aware of what that target is and moving the needle towards it. That's kind of how I look at personal success. Everybody's success is different. I just want to know that I've lived my best life. Mm-hmm. I've given it all. I've done as much as I could. I've inspired as many people as I can. And I've made as big an impact as I can. Mm-hmm. Like, that's really how I'm looking at my life as a success.
For me, freedom became more important than money.
Yeah.
But not until I became an entrepreneur.
Yeah, right. That's usually when it happens.
Yeah, I probably was deluded when I became an entrepreneur, because I was making very good money corporately.
Yeah.
But I thought I wouldn't skip a beat, and I did.
Yeah, right.
But the value of the newly found freedom was way more important to my soul than the money component.
Yeah. Then the money comes.
Then the money began to come.
That's the same exact journey I went through. When I left a cushy job in corporate America, walked away from a ton of money to do this. And people thought I was batshit crazy, because I was doing all this stuff anyways while I was there. I had a lot of freedom, but that job was holding me back. It was this black cloud. It was this thing, but it was my hedge. But when I walked away, it was
a security blanket.
It was. But I walked away, and that freedom was invigorating, and I'll never go back.
And you almost want to scream that to anyone who'll listen, because it's such a powerful thing.
Yes.
But it often falls on deaf ears.
It does.
It just does.
It's because people are comfortable in that box that I talked about earlier. People get very comfortable. But the moment you get out of that box and see what's out there and be willing to trust yourself, like, I was willing to bet on myself. Like, I said, you know what? I'm going to be capped out in a company. I want to bet on myself, because I know what I'm capable of. And I said, it's going to be a journey. It's going to take time. I'm not going to make the same amount of money I made here in the next 24 months, but I took that risk. And here I am 18 months later doing better than I was back then.
Right.
Because I just took the risk, and it came.
Taking the risk is the biggest leap for most people that are working for a firm, or they're working for someone else. Mm-hmm. And I like to tell them, look, this is America.
Yeah.
And whether there's a Democrat or a Republican in the White House, or we're in a recession, or we're in an era of productivity economically, you can always start over in this country. Your risk is there. There will always be a risk and change, but you can start over. If you take the risk and you give it your best and it doesn't work, you can and you will start over. You will start over and do fine because of the simple fact that you had the courage to take the risk. If you take that same courage and start over again, you're going to be, I guess the overall theme is, Rocco, you're going to be okay.
Exactly.
But it's still hard to convince people to take the leap.
It's scary. It's a scary thing, and that's the problem. But you're 100% right. Like it's also the most freeing feeling in the world.
There's no question. And I'm the kind of person, I think you are too, you generally would love to see others experience it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it's powerful and fun. When I left corporate America, you'll laugh. So I was in sales, so I wasn't always 9 to 5 at that point, but I'd gone through those years of working in a cubicle. Yeah. But I told my one buddy who wanted to do something and do his own thing. I said, listen, man, what do you hate the most about work life right now? He goes, well, quite frankly, I like my job, but I just get depressed on Sunday nights. I said, I did too.
Yeah.
Most of the working America on a regular schedule does as well. The moment you do your own gig, that goes away.
It does. Absolutely.
And that little thing was the trigger for him to give it a go, and he's still doing it to this day.
That's awesome.
But you got to find that thing, that one thing that really either is a trigger or the thing you really don't dig about your current situation, and then eliminate that.
Well, I'll tell you what, people, and this is on topic, I think. So people talk about finding your why, right? And that's important. But I always say, find that holy shit makes my stomach turn. Like, to me, it was like, okay, my why was I get to inspire people and do cool shit and have freedom. True. My other side is I don't want to go back. Like, I don't want anybody to tell me what to do. I don't want any rules to follow. That's what I'm avoiding. I'm chasing the why, but I'm avoiding that pain point. And sometimes people have to look at what's the pain point and then run from that. And that'll motivate them. Sometimes more so than chasing the why.
No question. And there's nothing wrong with that.
No, not at all.
I'll share a very personal statement. One of the drivers that got me to leave corporate America, because I had started the guitar thing on the side.
Yeah.
Doing very well on the side.
Yeah.
One of the drivers that accelerated my exit from that company was my disdain for a certain individual in management there.
Sure.
Who wasn't directly my manager, but made my life miserable or just tried to.
Yeah.
Little jabs here and there. And it was out of jealousy.
Yeah.
And I got it. I just didn't care for the gentleman.
Yeah.
And so I used that to accelerate my exit, which, at the time didn't know if that was the wrong or right decision, but you find that, and it can be a negative driver is what you're saying, right? It can be
absolutely. Sometimes that is the driver you need, because the why is important, but sometimes the why doesn't motivate people enough because they're like, okay, well, I'm cushy here, I'm making money, and I want to do these other things, and this is my why to provide for my family, but I'm providing for my family with a job. So it creates this blurred line. When you find that negative, that thing you fear, that thing you hate, that pain,
which is screaming out to you anyway.
Exactly.
You know what it is.
Exactly. But then you make the choice to run from it. That's when it changes. And that's what a lot of people need to do.
That's powerful.
Yeah.
That's powerful. You talk in chapter 7, dealing with things getting tough, and you talk a little about recovery time.
Yeah.
Extrapolate on that a little.
Yeah, I think people, in life, they talk about, rest. And I don't believe in necessarily rest. I think you got to recover from things. So it's, rest is like, I'm not going to do anything. We, as entrepreneurs, we run ourselves thin, right? We're going 24/7. We're going, all day, every day in a million different directions. Sometimes we don't take that time to recover. And when I say recover, I'm not saying just sit there on a Sunday and don't do shit. That to me that doesn't do anything. Recovery is just taking that time to get away from the normal and do things a little bit differently. So fitness is always a good example to give. So if I'm working out, right, I don't take a rest day. Take a recovery day. So on that day, I might not work out as hard. I might stretch, maybe do some yoga. I'm still doing something to stay active, but I'm letting my body recover. I'm not resting it completely because when you rest, you lose momentum. Recovery is
Say
how
that
you
again, sir, because that's very powerful.
Right. When you rest is when you lose momentum. Recovery allows you to keep your momentum because you're still doing something, so you're still keeping that momentum, but you're doing it in a different way. And I think that's where people, when you start to understand when things get tough, you need to take that step back and recover. Just don't stop and rest. That's the difference.
I think that line gets blurred a lot.
Yeah, it does. It really does. It got blurred for myself. I mean, it's until I understood it, then I started applying it, and it helped me keep that momentum, because that was always the biggest challenge for me, is when I lost momentum. I had a hard time getting back to where I was.
And probably the biggest culprit in losing momentum is probably the television. Because people, I'm going to take a day of rest. Well, what do? You're still going to sleep your same 7-8 hours.
Yep.
You're going to get up and take a day of rest.
Yep.
Odds are likely a good portion of those folks are going to fall on that couch and be there.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. And then then I would lose that momentum. And then it's the next day you kind of struggle to get back into things. So now I look at recovery. So I make sure I'm still doing stuff on those days. Even when I go on vacation, I do stuff. Like, I don't like to say I take a vacation. I like to just go away and recover. But I'm still reading. I'm still maybe writing blogs. I'm still doing social media. I'm still doing stuff I like to do.
Right.
It's just doing it differently.
Talk about preventing imbalance, because that's also in that chapter.
Yeah, I mean, that's the $1 million struggle, right?
We're all guilty.
Yeah, and I always like to say that, look, there is no such thing as true balance in life. As individuals, especially as entrepreneurs, we're always off balance to some extent. You have to become self-aware of your actions and know when you're getting too far out of balance. Like, if I'm working too much and haven't spent much time with my wife and kids, I've got to be self-aware to know, okay, I need to take a break and spend some time with them this weekend. Or if I'm spending too much time screwing around and not really putting in the work I need to put in, okay, I need to get back in gear. So it's really becoming very self-aware of the things you do in your life and knowing when you're going. I always say, the path is always like this. Just, you got to know when you're going too far one way or the other and bring yourself back towards the middle.
You also close down that chapter talking a little bit about solving problems, problem solving.
Yeah, I mean, that's problem solving is just one of those things that's, to me,
it's clear though during your recovery time. Did you find that? I mean, did you able to, from a reflection standpoint?
Oh, absolutely. When you're recovering and kind of taking that step back, I feel like you tend to solve problems a lot differently because your brain's working a little bit different. You're seeing things a little bit more clear. And it's when you do that, when you take those moments of recovery and you start analyzing the problems you're facing, I tend to find solutions a lot quicker in those moments. And to me, problem solving, everybody has their own way of solving problems, and the way I solve problems you may not, or someone else may not, but it's finding what that is. And it's an important skill to build in life, because life, you're always going to have problems, right? No matter what stage of life we're in, it's never going to be problem free. You got to be able to build your problem solving ability and figure out when and how you can do that.
You talk a little bit in chapter 8 about dealing with negativity.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
And I love this statement though. The way to help others, the best way to help others is to be an example.
Yeah, exactly. Like be the lighthouse, be the beacon. That's what I say. I mean, it's, you don't necessarily, because people always, there's lots of talk out there when it comes to dealing with negative people. Like, just avoid them. Sometimes they need embraced. Sometimes you got to be the light.
Absolutely. And
show them. Sometimes no one may have been willing to be that example for them. Maybe you're the one person that they need. But we've been told by so many motivational guys or girls or inspirational speakers that, well, just eliminate the negativity from your life. Just avoid negative people.
That's
Surround
impossible.
yourself. It's completely impossible. I mean, yeah, there are going to be certain people you just avoid because you just can. But if your spouse or your close friends or your family, if they're negative people, you can't just say, I'm going to leave you. I mean, you could, but that's a lot to that. So it's, how do you look at it differently? Change your perspective. Maybe embrace them. Show them hope. Show them the light. And try and guide them from their darkness into the light. That's something that I think a person, when you're choosing to live your best life, you choose to do.
It's a great point, and it's oftentimes difficult. So I mentioned earlier, I chose a stoic type of response to a circumstance.
Sure.
But at the time that I was confronted with these individuals, I made a decision to come out of the stoic, offer the hand of friendship, offer the gesture of buying around the drinks, engaging in the conversation, and that completed the circle for me. Had I remained in a stoic standpoint, it minimized the aggravation eventually, I think, but I couldn't get completion. The circle couldn't have been completed. No. So again, there's advice from all. I think the right response initially was to be stoic, but I needed to complete the circle once I got to the certain point in myself and was confronted with the opportunities. Does that make any sense?
No, it makes complete sense. It's there would have been a gap. There would have been a mental gap you would have had because you wouldn't have had that closure. Right. The stoicism allowed you to get past it
initially.
Yeah, but you would have had that gap because there's no closure. By embracing the negative and choosing to show them the light, close the gap. That's really what it did.
Yeah, that was for a 53-year-old guy. That was a pretty eye-opening moment. That I probably could have helped me if I had that earlier in life. But that really worked pretty well, though.
No, absolutely.
And it just goes to what you said in the chapter. It said, "Don't avoid others who are negative if they are in your circle." And I consider this gentleman in my circle.
Yeah, right.
Yep.
And people try and do that, but it's they're in your circle for a reason.
Yeah.
Maybe they're just having one of those moments in time where they need that inspiration. They need that hope. And be the person to show them.
Right.
Choose to be the light.
Right. In the last chapter, you provide some strategies to accelerate living your best life. And I didn't breeze through this because I thought there was a couple of really good ones in there. First off, I like this, although it made me read it a couple times.
Okay.
You said, forget multitasking.
Right. Yes. There's no
Would you care to expound on that?
Yeah, there's no such thing. There's scientific studies that say your brain cannot do.
Especially men.
No, yes, absolutely.
I've seen some women do it.
Right. But you can't engage in two tasks that need thought at the same time. So you can't technically take a phone call and type an email at the same time. Your brain is constantly task switching, it's called.
Got it.
And so you're going back and forth between. So there's been studies, and I think I talked about it in the book where I did that on myself. It took almost 3 times as long to respond to an email while I was trying to do it while I'm on the phone call, as opposed to just responding to the email. So we waste a lot of. People think they're saving time and being more efficient by multitasking. All your brain is doing is ping-ponging back and forth between tasks, and they typically take 3 times longer to do. So you're actually losing. So when I know that if I have to write something, I'm drafting a letter or a document, I turn off all my notifications, my email, my phone, and I can get that document done in 30 minutes or an hour, where if I have notifications and I'm distracted, it might take me 4 hours.
And the quality might be different.
Exactly. So that's the first thing you got to do. Just focus on a single task at a time.
You talk about seeking help where needed in there too.
Yeah.
Being courageous enough to admit that you need help.
Yes, we all need help. We all need help in many aspects of our life. When I started working with a coach and just working with different people in general, those are moments in life where we have the biggest growth, I believe, when we're willing to ask for help, because we can't know it all. We can't see it all. Sometimes you just need to be aware when to ask for it and not be afraid. It's that we're afraid of the vulnerability of thinking we don't know something, but you have to be willing to do it, because genuinely people want to help others. But you have to ask them. You have to ask, absolutely.
Exactly. And we just naturally have a myopic view of our own life. That's just how it is.
Exactly.
We're not going to see what could be the reality.
No.
Because everybody has their own reality.
Yeah, exactly.
How they react to you.
Yep. We can't see the forest from the trees.
This is amazing, my friend.
Yeah, this is awesome.
And I want to definitely state this again. I love this book, The Alpha Way, Rocco Cozza, and it's 5 keys to unlocking your greatness. Make sure I say this correctly. 5 keys to unlocking your greatness and living your best life. And a very simply written, but concisely written book that really resonated with me. And I didn't think it was going to. I thought I would pull some nuggets out of it, but it was funny because I promised you before we met again, I would read it. So I went out and I bought it, and then I've read it 3 times now. And almost 3 times. I'm almost done. it's a handbook. It's really a handbook to taking your life forward in a very understandable way. And I appreciate that for someone who has indulged in so much self-development material in my life, to the point I probably was, my brain wanted to explode. I took a break from it for about 4 years.
Wow.
Yeah, 2009 to 2013-ish.
Okay.
I was going through a divorce, but probably I needed it at that time. But of course, it was too much in my brain.
Right, sure.
But then I came back and looked at it more, I don't know about specifically, Rocco, but I came back and looked at it more selectively.
Okay.
And I discarded a lot of my library. I gave it away, donated it, because things that and I guess your statement initially was there's a lot of stuff out there.
Yeah, there is.
And you have to find something that resonates with you, I guess.
Absolutely.
And you have to be discerning.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely.
Yeah, but you've written a gem here, friend.
Well, I really appreciate that. That means a lot to me.
Whew, man,
Thank
that
you.
was good.
Yeah, that was fun, man.
Yeah,
I
I'll bring you
appreciate
back
it.
again soon. I got some more topics we're going to do.
Hey, man, anytime. You know it. I'm always willing to come back. This is a blast.
And I congratulate you on your success, my friend. It's
Thank
someone
you.
that's definitely well deserved. You're an
appreciate
exceptionally fine attorney and a better man.
Thank you. I appreciate that, man. I would say the same about you as well.
Yeah,
and then you can go, if my law firm is Cozza Law, COZZALAW.com. You can find me there, or on Instagram, theroccocozza.com.
Or go to Amazon.
Yeah.
Type in Rocco Cozza.
Yeah, check out
get
the book.
The Alpha Way. It's the best $13 you're going to spend, friends. Trust me. Until next time. God
appreciate
bless
it.
y'all. Thank you, Rocco.
Thank you.
We'll see y'all soon.
Take care. That was awesome, man.
Dude, that was
So much fun.
Most informative podcast I've ever fucking done.
I love it,
mean,
man.
they ought to pay us for this.
Hey.
This was pretty good.
That was awesome, man. So much fun.